Hey everyone, it's Matt from That Time We Woke Up in a Podcast and Had to Explain Manga, our heated adventures overanalyzing manga we find interesting, otherwise known as the OverMangaCast. It's summer break over here, so unfortunately our editor Sam has taken the week off, so we're not going to have a full episode for you. We do have a discussion where me and Sam a bit ago talked about the nature of filler, so that's up for you. And in case you wanted to hear more of us, because this will be a little bit of a shorter episode this week, I recently guest spotted on One Podcast Prevails, a Detective Conan podcast, where we went over the cruise ship murder case. Go over, check them out in the show notes below. It was episode 72. Anyway, enjoy the episode.
Everybody, my name is Sam, and we got a bit of a special episode here today. We don't have a Jay or a Jake. Instead, it's me and Matt.
Hi.
Yeah, we are without our two extra co-hosts, so instead of going over a specific manga, we're going to do a filler episode because everyone loves those.
I mean, legitimately, yes.
Filler episodes can be fun, but this is the filler episode on filler. It's extremely meta.
I mean, where do we start with filler? Like,
there's the obvious places to start, but those are all the examples I can think of are anime rather than in a manga. I feel like manga aren't as subject to filler.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think you could have filler in a manga because the very definition of like filler is padding. And I think what you get to a lot of the times is people use filler to describe things even when they're the source medium. You don't see that a lot in like manga, but you see that a lot in like Western cartoons. People are like, oh, this is just a dumb filler episode. And what they meant to say was this isn't crucial to the current overarching plot, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, because the base idea of the base idea of filler is supposed to be this is an adaptation and we are caught up to the source material and we need to fill our time slot. That's why Naruto had its infamous 100 plus episodes of filler.
You mean it's 4 seasons of filler?
Yes.
I mean, so it's kind of a necessary evil of the industry, though. There's a really good gif from the Gintama anime, because what doesn't Gintama do the best? Where it's them describing what happened, like the nature of filler is either you slow down because manga content can only release so quickly. So you've got 2 options with an anime. You either slow down and adapt 1 chapter into 2 episodes. One Piece. It's modern One Piece is not a thing I would recommend people watch. I do because I have Stockholm syndrome. But no, or the alternative is you put in filler episodes, which One Piece used to do. And some of them were good. Some of them weren't.
Whenever I think of the word filler, I think of the last episode of Naruto I saw in the 4-season filler arc, which involved Naruto using the Rasengan, that super powerful signature technique that was this huge journey for him to learn and a really amazing milestone. He uses it as a makeshift motorboat propeller.
That works.
And as much as I'm all for creative use of powers, that is just the image that pops into my head. And it seemed so... That's the part that made me go, you know what? I really don't care. Nothing is happening.
Yeah, because that's the main thing about filler is it's always going to be inconsequential. You're never going to see anything like major plot related. You're not going to gain new powers, or worst case, you gain new powers and then they never mention them again.
Yeah. To use a Dragon Ball example, because the movies, because Jake isn't here, I've got to be the one that comes in with the Dragon Ball examples. The movies for DBZ, or nearly all the Dragon Ball movies, aren't canon. So there's a very specific episode or very specific movie, Lord Slug, which happened around the time the Namek saga was airing, and they needed Goku to have some sort of rage-based power-up, but Super Saiyan hadn't happened yet. So they did this like extremely bootleg version of Super Saiyan. He had the glowing aura, he had the spiky hair, but his hair didn't change color and his eyes were just blank white. It lasted for all of 5 minutes.
That sounds like a power-up that is almost certainly in Dragon Ball Heroes, and I would love to read that. Maybe we're going to have to do it without Jacob.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Heroes is basically filler. The anime is...
But it's a manga.
Is there a manga to it? I only heard about it being like an anime and I think a card game.
Oh, no. Hold on. Excuse the mechanical keyboard.
Yes. It's all for aesthetic background noise purposes.
No,
the only time I can think of like what you would potentially call filler in a manga is if the manga is not the original source, like Dragon Ball Super, or even that time I woke up, or that's not it. My Next Life is a Villainess, because that's like the third degree of separation adaptation from the original material.
I mean, My Next Life is a Villainess is basically only filler. So on the note of Dragon Ball Heroes, the manga came first. It is a spin-off of the Dragon Ball Super manga, which is not the original, but we're not going down that rabbit hole. So it's a spin-off of Dragon Ball Super. Although the anime based off Dragon Ball Heroes takes significant detours and is basically its own thing. So the Dragon Ball universe is weird.
It is exceptionally weird. And yeah, that's it. It's exceptionally weird. That's the long and short of it.
But really, the best part about filler is when you get like cool character moments that make sense. They're mostly inconsequential, but they at least fill the gap so that you can have good episodes later on. And one of my favorite examples of that is Goku and Piccolo learning how to drive.
Yes. The infamous car driving episode.
I mean, Goku, you need to learn how to drive. I'll need someone to help me with the groceries.
I mean, I guess we kind of got payoff of that in Dragon Ball Super, where he knows how to drive a tractor.
He did need to learn how to drive. He needed a license.
Yeah. I don't know how transferable the skills between car and tractor are, but and there you go.
I mean, it's Dragon Ball universe, so they're all probably Capsule Corp. So
filler episodes also have a way of, if you do think of them as being consequential, cause really weird twists in the universe. Another thing that I'm sure if Jacob was here, he could be much more expansive upon it. In Yu-Gi-Oh! There is actually, when we went over the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, there was almost a filler chapter that we read through in our reading, the one with the love letter puzzle.
That wasn't filler. That was just badly paced. Like there is some plot there because it is why it's been so long I've forgotten their actual names. Tristan. You remember. Honda. So that episode and that chapter is the reason why Honda goes from I don't know anything about Yugi to I guess I'll hang out with him because he's Joey's friend.
True. Jonichi. Yeah, true. If you want a real filler episode, we read in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, the one where they have a Digimon like little pocket pet thing that the main characters aren't even in. They show up at the end, but the plot is resolved based on what Yugi does.
But it's so inconsequential, and it establishes like weird, because that computer program was just naturally evil and magic. Had nothing to do with Egypt, had nothing to do with anything. If this was an anime, everyone would say that's the weird filler episode that made like other forms of dark magic canon, like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they the Knights of Atlantis with those dragons, and everyone's just like, yeah, sure, Atlantis can also exist, I guess.
I had not actually seen that particular arc, but I have heard about it, and it is just an entire stretch of the show that is a side quest, essentially.
Well, because basically what you get into situations where you're making filler, like the worst kind of filler is when you go, what do we know about these characters? And you have 3 notes on them, and then you use them to tell basically the exact same story. And you're like, oh, well, what was the last villain everyone liked? Let's basically just make them again.
Ah, yes, the Bleach problem.
I can't even tell which parts of Bleach are filler and which aren't.
Which might be an issue. I admit I have not seen much of Bleach, but I do know that there is one particularly infamous moment where the first time... Oh, what's even the main character's name? I can't recall.
Kurosaki.
Yeah, when he has the moment where he turns into a hollow and, he's become this rampaging monster, and he, suddenly regains control of himself, rips the hollow mask off, and continues to fight as himself. That happens beat for beat, exactly the same again, like a season later.
Look, you got to be able to reuse animation. Mm-hmm. Also, I really want to point out, we planned this terribly. We're talking about Dragon Ball and Bleach without Jacob or Jay.
Ah, damn it, you're right.
I was really trying to aim to One Piece because that's something I can talk about, but no.
Well, let's talk about One Piece then.
So One Piece has some pretty good filler arcs. They're watchable. The better ones are the short ones where you get 3 episodes to it used to be just as a 3-episode mini arc as a filler. Now you normally only get them when they're promoting a movie, and those are pretty good. The movies for One Piece actually have gotten significantly better. But one of the worst ones early on is the one that establishes dragons are real in One Piece way before One Piece determined dragons are real. So they work like Western dragons.
I was about to say, are they Western dragons, big treasure hoarding monsters, or the Eastern dragons?
They look like Western dragons. Basically, the whole thing is, because that's another thing when you knew you were in early One Piece filler, is do they find a child who is immediately endeared to the crew? Because that is every single time in One Piece. You can tell it's a filler episode because there is a 6 to 8-year-old child who becomes a member of the crew, basically, because the manga for One Piece skews a little older than the anime does. So the anime, whenever they get free reign, are just let's throw more kids in here so it feels more cutesy.
And it appeals, to our younger audience.
Which is not what Oda wants.
Yeah.
But, One Piece is for everyone. And also curvy ladies.
My experience with One Piece is basically I watched Totally Not Mark's entire review series on it.
Oh, so then about the best One Piece filler arc, which is actually considered canon by a lot of fans, which is the G8 saga. Basically what happens in between the Skypiea arc and the next arc, they're up in a sky island. And what happens in the anime, or what happens in the manga, is actually kind of uneventful. They just fall down and crash into the water. There's a few scenes that you typically get when One Piece does travel. You'll get here's the crew barely interacting. The anime does a better job of hey, it takes a few episodes to get from place to place so you can get some these people actually hang out as friends. But what happened in the manga was they fight a squid, I think, and it barely matters.
There's a big monster. Luffy does a stretch punch at it.
Yeah, it's not eventful. But what happens in the anime is they accidentally land in the secret marine base G8.
Yes.
And their ship is immediately captured, and they all have to do this 8-episode undercover spy arc. And it's just so cool.
I gotta say, just from the way you're describing it, that sounds exactly up my alley. Suddenly turned everything into a heist movie. I'm for it.
It's pretty cool. And it also does hit some of the problems you get with filler is the rank that I forget if it's captain. It's been a while since I've seen, but the head of that base is referred to by a rank in the Marines, which later on implies he needs to be significantly more powerful than he is to. In all fairness, he does look like he. At no point do they beat him. They kind of just play on the fact that he doesn't want to get too involved. He wants to live a careful life, but it's a really good arc. But the implications are kind of weird. But it does give some motivation for one of Luffy's techniques. He like gets inspiration for a technique that had already been revealed in the manga during that arc. And it feels good because when that technique comes out in the manga, he doesn't really explain where it comes from. He just says, I had this idea, and uses it. So it's a cool little like additional bonus, even though it's not necessarily canon.
All right. Yeah, that I feel is a very compelling way to do filler. When you use filler as a moment to reinforce a character, it can be very powerful in that regard. What I was saying earlier about how one of the ways you can get filler in manga is if the mangaka has no idea where they're actually going and just kind of end up spinning the wheels for a little bit. As much as I love it, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure does have a bit of this.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah. So this mostly happens in my experience in parts 3 and 4, because those are the most episodic ones of the series. Parts 1 and 2 being more structured, classic adventure stories. One of part 3's strengths that people really love it for is the fact that it is a monster of the week story with this cool new fight system that Araki came up with. And that really lets him flex his muscles when it comes to coming up with crazy powers and how they interact. But a lot of it ends up not being super consequential in the way that a lot of Monster of the Week stories are. Like, think about how in Power Rangers, they don't really call back to a lot of the monsters that they destroy. They just, have the standard fight a couple of the putties, then big monster shows up and they have to activate the Zords to merchandise the toys and destroy the big monster. And other than that, it's not really thought about. The same kind of happens in parts 3 and 4 of JoJo, except where, big, important character arc defining villains are involved. The one that gets me as being a good filler chapter for the purposes of not really super impacting the plot, but very much informing you about characters is the part in part 4 where Josuke burns down Rohan's house while playing dice.
What?
So Matt, you've not read or watched JoJo, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So there is a moment in part 4 where the JoJo meets a guy who claims to be an alien and has the power to shapeshift.
Okay.
He demonstrably has the power to shapeshift into like inanimate objects. And in order to beat a side character in a bet, Josuke has this alien shapeshift into a set of dice that can be manually controlled because, of course, they're a living being. And Rohan immediately becomes suspicious of this and does increasingly drastic and overdramatic things to increase the stakes of their otherwise benign betting game in order to make Josuke admit to the fact that he's cheating at the game. Mm-hmm. And this culminates in Rohan nearly losing a finger and his house getting set on fire. And Josuke's like, dude, your house is on fire. What are we going to do about this? And he's like, I don't care. I need to defeat you in this game. And while Rohan's house being burned down comes up mildly in like supplementary material after part 4 is done, it doesn't do a whole lot to shake up the actual plot progression of part 4, but it really hammers home the relationship between Josuke and Rohan in being mildly not even mildly, and being very adversarial, yet they can't really seem to bring themselves to hate each other enough that they stop being friends.
Oh, okay.
Part 4 is a very strange part.
That's saying something.
And I kind of love it for all of that.
Okay, cool.
It's also another one where Araki was very clearly writing by the seat of his pants, and he had the idea of where he wanted to go and didn't really get there for like 10 chapters.
I mean, a part of me still is on the fence that it's still the original source material. So it's not so much filler. It was put there for a reason. It's a pacing issue if you don't like that nothing happened. Like, I can actually complain that Next Life has filler in it, but I don't know what the light novel had in it. So maybe it's just nothing happens.
Could be.
Like, I don't like it when filler is used to mean I don't like the slice of life bits. Like,
all right. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Because like it's an important part that when you're in a series, especially battle shonen, really fall down this thing where these people are literally just only doing major arcs one after another. And you keep getting told this group of people are friends. And you're like, but why? Like Dragon Ball is a great example. Why are these people friends?
Yeah. Why do these people invite each other to their birthday parties?
It's just not something we saw in the first arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to wager a bet we don't see a lot of it going forward. That's not true. We saw a lot of it in Super.
Yeah, we did. Actual reasons for these people to like each other. But then Super's the most recent thing. So
it's the best.
I disagree with that, but
well, we can agree to have bad opinions, Sam.
That is what we are here for.
I'm just saying, one of us controls the official Twitter account's opinion. Okay. Bringing back my thing, though, is filler in manga doesn't really exist because everything in there is there for a reason. And sometimes people just don't like it there. And you can disagree with the pacing or you can disagree with why the author would put it there, but it's not filler because it means something. Now, if you want to pretend like something didn't happen, maybe. If you want to forget you aged up a character and only draw his child form throughout an entire arc, sure.
I feel like that's a specific reference.
Yeah. I forget what the young Namekian is during the Boo saga.
Dende?
Yeah, Toriyama keeps forgetting he aged Dende up for the Boo saga because it's been like 15 years. Or it's 10 years, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. And so occasionally you'll just see child Dende.
It happens. Look. That's a thing, though, that occurred to me. We think a lot about filler as because you and I grew up in the time when, you know, like Naruto and Dragon Ball and One Piece were the big three, and they were the thing that everybody was talking about. They were the thing that was the gateway to most American kids to anime, and all three of them in their anime adaptations have copious filler, particularly Naruto and Dragon Ball. So we're kind of in the generation of anime fans that grew up experiencing the most like iconic kind of stretches of filler.
Well, yeah, because you don't really see filler that bad anymore because you don't get shonens that just have like a blank check to keep producing episodes. I'm pretty sure One Piece is the only one that still has its blank check. Boruto?
I'm not sure. I haven't I have not been keeping up with Boruto at all.
I mean, if you guys want us to read Boruto, just go ahead and message at OverMangaCast and tell us to read it.
Pester at OverMangaCast on Twitter. Have any of it?
Or,
I have not read Naruto. I've not read Shippuden, so this will be basically completely new. So exactly what Hishiyama wanted.
I mean, yeah, we could read more Super. Just feel free. send your requests, and I will overrule literally everyone else's vote to do whatever you want, dear listener.
Yeah, I
use my power for memes, not for evil.
Depending on who you ask. But yeah, that's true. You don't see filler to that extent a lot these days, and I think that might just be indicative of the fact that the big three did so much to grind the nature of filler into people. It's like we have a very clear idea of what it is, so people making manga and anime now know what it is and know how to avoid it or circumvent it or use it to their benefit.
Well, also a big thing what you get is from anime adaptations is they buy them in seasons now. Mm-hmm. You're not just getting a time slot that you keep every day of the year. You are like My Hero Academia just got season 5 to date the episode. But like it comes out in seasons. Jujutsu Kaisen had one season that it might get more of. No Game, No Life only got one season and is never going to get anything more.
Please don't make me depressed. I want No Game, No Life 2, season 2.
Oh, I can keep mentioning things that will never get new seasons. Overlord? That's not true. They're making their next season.
Yeah, Overlord did pretty good for keeping up its seasons. We'll be talking more about Overlord in the Isekai discussion episode. So... let's see though. What was I going to say? I was going to say something.
Some filler for some time to think of your filler discussion. Okay.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Another show that does filler amazingly is Detective Conan, because about 90% of that show is filler, to the point that people will even say the manga is filler because for some reason people think Detective Conan is about the plot, and those people, I was going to call them idiots, but I should probably be nicer on a recorded medium.
Be a bit more diplomatic.
Yeah, no, those people are misguided because Detective Conan isn't a show about like everyone is vaguely aware of the general premise via cultural osmosis. But Jimmy Kudo, high school detective, gets a mysterious drug administered to him by the men in black that cause him to revert into the body of a child. And that premise is
unless he is drunk.
Unless he gets drunk, which was added in, I think, 2 arcs in. But so it basically flip-flops between there, and it remains in pretty much stasis as far as the plot goes up until the addition of a character I'm blanking on the name of, but she's basically another adult woman that was drugged, and she knows more about the organization, but also is just content hanging out with Conan and his friends. So... But essentially, even within the context of the manga, is the number of chapters that are plot relevant of the 900 something chapters they've done and 1,000 episodes they've done are like non-existent. Mm-hmm. Especially because the anime has a great habit of what they do is just remaster old episodes, and those count as new episodes in the episode count.
Oh, man.
Yeah, for one of their milestones, they just remade the Midnight Sonata murder case, which is a very famous like early case that's considered like one of the best ones. And it's a 2-parter. So 2 of their 1,000 episodes are remakes of earlier episodes.
Because the thing that everybody loves more than a filler episode is a recap episode.
But no, yeah. So the big thing is why that doesn't matter is because Detective Conan isn't about the plot. The plot is a framing device for why you do these murder mysteries once a week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a serial. So you need, and serials by their very nature are very plot stagnant and repeatable.
But like, I think that's something that in like this new media age of like streaming services and everything, like the big thing like about a decade ago was, oh, well, this show was episodic, but we've got like a little running thread of plot in between. Mm-hmm. And people have taken that to mean that's the main story, which sometimes things can just be episodic. You can just enjoy things going from episode to episode. Mm-hmm. Expecting like the big overarching plot to be the main thing is kind of to the detriment of the series. It's supposed to be like a little added bonus in a lot of things.
Yeah. This is also the age of binging, which is, indicative of the fact that streaming services will just release an entire season all in a day, and people can, in that single day, consume the entire season. Stepping out of the anime and manga world temporarily, that's what was so weird about shows like The Boys Season 2 and WandaVision, and that they continue to do the weekly releases, when it's like, people just want you to release the whole season at once. Just yeet it all on Amazon at the same time, and we will spend a whole day in the dark watching it.
Yeah, but then you don't get to own the Twitter first for like the month your show is releasing.
That's true.
And I mean, also, the weekly release for a lot of things, I think, is better, because a lot of shows that are like inherently episodic, watching a bunch of them all at once is really not the best way to enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really give you time to digest what happens.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's like if I went into a bakery and got a cake and then proceeded to eat the entire cake in my car and then complained to the grocery store that I got a stomachache, like maybe that's not the store's fault. Mm-hmm. That being said, I'm not sure this example really tracks, because what I'm saying is my preferred method would be the grocery store to send me a slice of cake each week.
The metaphor kind of falls apart, but it is, I guess you could call it portion control in your media diet.
Ooh, man, I just realized a cake subscription service where they only sent you one piece of cake a week would be pretty rad, because it'd be different types of... Sam, cut off the recording. This is going to be a real idea we're going to put out.
New OverMangaCast cake service.
I don't think the name has anything to do with why they sell cake. Just shut up.
we write our URL and icing on each slice to the latest episode.
Yeah, in order to save money, we've got to make the cakes out of cardboard, but we make it up in icing.
Yes. What was I going to say, though? Binging. The age of binging is kind of anathema to filler. Like, I watched the entirety of ReZero Season 1 in like a weekend, which, by the way, I do not recommend. ReZero, great show, great, absolutely great anime. I really enjoyed it. I don't recommend doing the entire thing in one weekend. It will spiral your emotions into the abyss.
Matt here. I would also recommend not watching ReZero. Full stop.
Well, different strokes. Sometimes I just like being sad, okay? But that is again not really going to be conducive with filler. You want your show in this day and age to be as watchable in an entire sitting as possible, even if that's not necessarily best for digesting individual episodes and understanding the plot. That is just how people do things. People work all week and then they have their Saturday to catch up on their favorite show. When you had your Saturday morning cartoons or your Saturday morning anime, when 4Kids got a hold of stuff, that was an easy way to hook people from week to week. But now you can just wait for it all to be out and then go stream it on Netflix or whatever. And filler will just make people eventually get sick of it.
Or you could just skip the filler episodes.
Well, yeah, but how do you know what's a filler episode? If you are in the vanguard of first consumers watching a thing.
That's why you never be the first lemming off the cliff, Samuel.
Fair enough. Yeah, if you can have the patience to hold off on watching something until other people have come in and reviewed it, though, again, in the age of the Twitterverse, that is a dangerous prospect, seeing what the mob thinks of it.
Works well for me. I mean, you've seen our manga poll list.
I have, yeah.
Oh, other people thought this was good. Oh, well, I was going to pick something I liked, but we know what happens there.
Look, the one pick that I had nearly made Jay rage quit that episode. It's fine.
Oh, Kill 6 Billion Demons, Part 2. Recommend it.
Yes.
Something happens in Book 2.
A lot of things happen in Book 2.
Good. That's more than what happened in Book 1.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier about how filler... It is splitting hairs at some point on what's filler to fill up time and what is just a thing, the pacing of which you don't like. Actually, that was your point as opposed to mine, which is just, reinforcing the status quo.
I'm not sure people were paying attention. You could probably just get away with stealing that, and you can make it sound like you're a really smart person who has really intelligent thoughts. And because I'm such a good friend, I'd let you have that.
But I have this thing where I feel weird about stealing ideas.
Oh, you writers always worried about plagiarism.
Yeah, the writer in me is just like, oh, that's plagiarism. Oh, no, stop it.
No, you need to get into software if you're not stealing things.
But yeah, like even I, a huge fan of Kill 6 Billion Demons, look at Book 1, and I'm like, the pacing on this is just molasses. But I know from having read the rest of it that everything being talked about here is relevant. Whether you're reading it at a surface level to just recognize proper nouns when they show up, or whether you're reading it at a very deep level and trying to anticipate what's happening.
Well, I think when I read Kill 6 Billion Demons, at no point did I think this was unnecessary. I just was like, ooh, this is a very strong mood they're going for. I understood it was done intentionally. I just didn't appreciate it.
Fair. Fair enough.
Oh man, what else is a good example of filler? We've been kind of heavy on it, but as we said earlier, it does have a necessity in the medium. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you're catching up to what's being written, and you either run out of source material, and then you're up with two options there. You can have what One Piece does, which is every chapter that gets released gets turned into 2 episodes.
Yeah. And because that's the thing, because if it's a weekly manga at what most people would consider optimal pacing, it's 4 to 5 chapters per episode.
Oh, you don't know the One Piece fans. Duty, Sam. We've been lucky to get 1.5 episodes out of a chapter, or sometimes if we've been really good, we might get 1 chapter turned into 1 episode. It's not great.
It looks pretty. I've seen clips of the Wano arc anime. It looks pretty.
They've really brought out all the stops to make it look really good. If only most of that wasn't characters remaining perfectly still and background noise to turn a 3-panel fight into 2 episodes.
Oof.
But anyway, that's one of the 2 things you can happen when you come up to this. But I think the next segue we should really go into is the other option you have, which is an anime original ending where you veer off and take the plot in your own direction.
Hi, Full Metal Alchemist 2003. I didn't see you over there.
Oh, Full Metal Alchemist 2003. Have you met Soul Eater?
Oh, God. Okay, both of those are on our reading list. Episodes on them will come out eventually, but I have got thoughts on them. On both of them.
Oh, geez, I don't.
See, here's the thing. FMA 2003 is a good show. I don't necessarily agree with where the with where the like plot reveals go as making a whole lot of sense, because it does lead into Hitler wants to become an alchemist. But
he did open a portal so dragons could come through to win World War II.
Conqueror Shambhala is something. But ultimately, FMA 2003 is a very enjoyable watch. And my one problem with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is that it kind of expected you to either have read the manga or seen 2003. For the first,
yeah, it does just fast forward through the first couple of arcs.
Mm-hmm. The first 10 episodes presume that you've seen previous content. And when my friend told me I needed to watch Brotherhood, but I needed to watch 2003 first, that's the only reason I would have watched 2003 all the way through.
I don't know. Like, Full Metal Alchemist is an interesting case because I don't think the anime original stuff is bad.
It isn't.
It's just different, and some people just don't like things that are different.
The thing with Full Metal Alchemist is it's such a very thoughtful series that's trying to send a very specific message, and the anime original ending kind of it's in the same ballpark as that message, but it's definitely not what was originally intended, and that's why it feels like it took a severe left turn at some point.
I can get that. I don't know. In general, I think I agree with you. I'm just being a little hesitant because I don't want to step on the toes of my like kind of controversial opinion about adaptations of things, which I would consider an anime original ending to be like the anime has decided it's going to be different than the manga. Because normally in cases of adaptations, I don't really care if it's different from the source material, because like if you wanted it to be exactly the same, you can still read the source material. To be like, I want to watch a movie that is like reading the book. I don't understand what you want because the book already exists. You want something that is inherently going to disappoint you.
And speaking of Full Metal Alchemist, we know what an attempted one-to-one translation of iconic moments ends up doing. It creates the Netflix live action FMA movie, which is crap.
Yeah, like it's just at that point, you're just trying to be the manga. And I think you need to understand that an anime is different than a manga. A movie is different than an anime. Like, they're all different mediums. You have to tackle them differently. And sometimes you're going to need to make changes. And sometimes you can go in new, interesting directions. Like
what if Lust became a real girl?
Yeah, like sometimes you get like that in filler is where they take like weird, interesting what ifs and they go off in that direction. And you're like, ooh, that would be interesting if that didn't happen. I wonder how that goes. And like, it's original thought at the very least, as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I think Full Metal Alchemist is a strange.
It's a better example than Soul Eater. Soul Eater is a thing. I don't think
either of Soul Eater's endings are very.
Yeah, we really can't go into either.
Neither of them are super satisfying.
Manga's satisfying, at least. It is an ending
as opposed to the anime's one, which is, hey, we beat the big bad and the adventure continues.
Yeah, I don't know. This is getting into a weird territory of Matt defending his weird opinions about media that has nothing to do with filler. Because I'm also like, ooh, but if an ending is unsatisfying, but that's what the author intended, I think maybe you should suck it up, because maybe you're supposed to feel unsatisfied.
Maybe things don't always neatly tie together.
Like, why do you want everything to be a happy ending? Like, things could just be okay endings for characters.
It's not even necessarily that I would want a happy ending for everything, but at least a cathartic ending, which is to pivot back to FMA, is why I do like 2003, because it doesn't necessarily give a happy ending to characters with different conclusions to their stories, like Lust or Scar, but they're very cathartic endings. Like, Lust is still Spoilers for Full Metal Alchemist 2003 if you haven't seen it. But Lust becomes a real girl again and remembers her life before she was turned into a homunculus. And that life was very short and tragic. And having those memories isn't happy. It doesn't make her feel any better but it is cathartic because now she's not lost. She's just kind of sad. But at least she isn't lost anymore, and she can start building a life that is hers, where she's not being, controlled by people. And unlike in Brotherhood, where he forsakes the idea of revenge and decides that the best revenge is to live well, he just... in FMA 2003, he pulls some serious shit and kills a lot of Amestrians. And while it's not a good ending, it's not a happy one, it is a very cathartic one because he got to deliver the pain that he was feeling back on the ones that caused it. You might not think it's the good thing that happened, but it is what he kind of wanted. And that's what you're getting at, how anime only plot hooks and endings like that can really just change your entire perspective on a character.
Yeah. And like filler in general can give you like different aspects of someone's personality, which we're tying back into the whole thing is when filler is good. It's when it's adding to the world rather than just rehashing what people like about the world.
It's filling in another layer.
Yeah, it's like adding some world building. It's world building's a little hard because then you're like, oh, is this canon world building or not? But that's
back to the One Piece problem.
that's a lot of problems. Like Naruto has a lot of interesting implications by the fillers.
Yeah, there's too much of it for me to even like actually think about. To think of a specific one. Like I said way earlier back in the episode, when I think of Naruto filler, I think of the Rasengan motorboat.
Yeah. Or how the Rasengan has like 7 different forms from all the filler movies. Yes, the Rainbow Rasengan. Don't think I've pronounced it correctly once.
Whatever. Though my favorite bit of is this canonical world building from Naruto movies for filler. Gatling guns?
Yeah, that's kind of the weird space of like, what is the technology level in Naruto? And honestly, I feel if I was closer to its familiarity, that's something I could give you an actual answer on. I think we're going under the logic that they don't have firearms because ninjas can dodge bullets.
Yeah.
I think that's what we have to go with. And the loud explosion is enough for them to instantly teleport. But if you throw a shuriken at subsonic speeds, it doesn't activate his dueling shield. And then you, as the Muad'Dim, will be able to see the 7 pathways of life and go along the valley until you can then claim yourself the rightful throne as the Emperor of Dune.
Is that a Dune reference?
That was a long way to go for a reference you weren't going to get.
And there you go. I think that might be the ultimate take on filler. A long way to go for a reference you're probably not going to get if you just stick with the canonical plot progressing stuff.
I mean, yeah, if we want to go into the filler of Dune, there's the like 7 novels his son wrote that no one likes. But that's not manga, so we don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, if we started talking about filler in literature, oh boy, do I have thoughts on the Legend of Drizzt.
Don't worry, that's our following side podcast. Now would be a good time to me have a prepared pun about Drizzt, but
that time I woke up in Faerun.
Oh, I was thinking like way lazier. Oh well, that's a good filler discussion we've had, Samuel.
It is indeed, Matt.
Oh man, Hopefully we can go back to talking about manga next week.
Yeah, we'll be back with our regularly scheduled programming next Thursday. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, and listening to the OverMangaCast. Remember to give us a review on your podcast review platform of choice. We do see those reviews, and we are extremely happy to get them. And of course, follow us on Twitter at OverMangaCast so you can get our shit posting, our shit opinions, and yell your own at us in order to maybe influence what we read. If
checking in with no one, I will confirm everyone who sends in something to at OverMangaCast. I will force everyone to read that manga one for one.
Maybe don't. Good night, everybody.
Nope. Good night. I always love bold promises we could never possibly fulfill.
Yep.